Hi everyone, this is Tejas and it is a pleasure for me to be on 10 Power 100 channel. What I will be doing with all of you today is I will be discussing a little bit about the English examination that is coming up for the second PUC midterm examinations, that is. So I hope you will find this video interactive and informative. The whole idea of this video is for you to get some understanding of how you can really push yourself to score really well in English. Usually English is considered as a subject which is very easy and barely a lot of people put in efforts to study, and I completely agree that it is easy. But I think the whole idea of this video is for you to aim for really high marks, because that is just going to improve your percentages and it's just going to give you a lot of clarity in terms of how you are headed towards in the long run, right? So that's the whole point of this video, and I really hope that you will enjoy this and you will take away as many things as possible. So let's dive deep into what we are planning to do today. And I'm also going to do a little bit of Kannada and English, so that it will be helpful for all the different viewers who want to take away the maximum from today's video. Let's get in. Alright, so basically the second PUC portions, as you know, is divided into prose, poem and grammar. So ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಂಗೆ prose ಮತ್ತೆ poetry ಅಲ್ಲಿ 40 marks ಬರುತ್ತೆ and grammar ಅಲ್ಲಿ 40 marks ಬರುತ್ತೆ. So prose poetry is for 40, grammar is for 40. This slide shows you all the different things that is there in the lessons, that is the prose. Lessons only we have 2 deer ಇದೆ, then everything I need to know I learnt in the forest ಅಂತ ಒಂದು lesson ಇದೆ. Then you have a really nice lesson called Gardener, and then a play ಇದೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ, the drama, which is Sunny Morning. So these are the 4 main lessons that are there in the prose. In poetry you have Romeo and Juliet, which is very very simple. Then you have On Children, you have When You Are Old, and you have To a Foot from Its Child. So these are the 4 prose and poetry lessons that you have for your midterm. Different districts might have a little bit 1 or 2 lessons that might vary, but I'm sure you will cover all these 8 lessons in the midterm examination. Under grammar you have active passive voice, which is very common. Idu quarterly test allu bandide and it is very very easy 3 marker. Then you have expressions, reading comprehension, reported speech, letter writing, resume, pronouns, jumbled segment, question tag, subject verb agreement, and prepositions and articles. So grammar bagge we will discuss a little bit later in this video. Prose poetry bagge I will just share a few tips and important questions that you can keep in mind, but this is broadly the portions that you have for your midterm. Okay. Alright. So Romeo Juliet ಅಲ್ಲಿ main thing that you should keep in mind is that ಇಲ್ಲಿ 2 marks ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು, 3 marks ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು, 4 marks ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ you should focus on the comparisons that they make in both Romeo ಮತ್ತೆ Juliet section ಅಲ್ಲಿ. Romeo section ಅಲ್ಲಿ there are a lot of comparisons that he makes to describe Juliet. Snowy dove among trooping crows ಅನ್ನೋದೊಂದು ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ she teaches the torch to burn bright, alliteration ಅಂತ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಲೈನ್ ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಬರುತ್ತೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. ಸೊ ಈ ತರ ಕಂಪ್ಯಾರಿಸನ್ಸ್ ತುಂಬಾ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ ಅಲ್ವಾ. ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ಲಿ ಜೂಲಿಯಟ್ ಅಲ್ಲೂ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಅ ಲಾಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಕಂಪ್ಯಾರಿಸನ್ಸ್, ನ್ಯೂ ಸ್ನೋ ಆನ್ ರೇವನ್ಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಎಕ್ಸೆಟ್ರಾ. ಸೊ ಇವೆಲ್ಲ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು, ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಫಿಗರ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸ್ಪೀಚ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರು ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಗ್ರೇಟ್. ಪರ್ಸಾನಿಫಿಕೇಶನ್ ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಸಿಮಿಲಿ ಅಂದರೆ ಯಾವ್ದು ಬರುತ್ತೆ, ಇದು ನಿಮ್ಮ ಕ್ವಾಲಿಟಿ ಆಫ್ ಆನ್ಸರ್ಸ್ನ ಇಂಪ್ರೂವ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬೋದು. ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಸಿಮಿಲರ್ಲಿ 2 marks ಇದು ಕೇಳ್ಬೋದು. ಓಕೆ, ಮೇನ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಬರೋದಂದ್ರೆ 2 ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಇದೆ, ಆ 2 ಸ್ಟ್ಯಾನ್ಸಸ್ ಇಂದಾನೆ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ ಅವರು. ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ರೋಮಿಯೋ ಹೇಗೆ ಜೂಲಿಯಟ್ಸ್ ಬ್ಯೂಟಿನ ಗ್ಲೋರಿಫೈ ಮಾಡ್ತಾನೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ನೀವು ಆ ಮೇನ್ ಸಮರಿ ಬರೆದ್ರೂ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಮೋರ್ ದನ್ ಇನಫ್. ದ ಸೆಕೆಂಡ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ ಇಸ್ ಹೌ ಜೂಲಿಯಟ್ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ಸ್ ರೋಮಿಯೋಸ್ ಬ್ಯೂಟಿ, ಹೇಗೆ ಅವನ್ನ ಡಿಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾಳೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೂ ದೇ ಮೈಟ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಯು ಅ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್. ಮೆನಿ ಪೀಪಲ್ ವಿಲ್ ಫರ್ಗೆಟ್ ಜೂಲಿಯಟ್ ಅಂಡ್ ವಿಲ್ ರೀಡ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ರೋಮಿಯೋ. ಹಂಗೆ ಮಾಡಕ್ಕೆ ಹೋಗ್ಬೇಡಿ. ಟ್ರೈ ಟು ಫೋಕಸ್ ಆನ್ ಬೋತ್ ದ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಬಿಕಾಸ್ ಬೋತ್ ಆರ್ ಈಕ್ವಲಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಮೂವಿಂಗ್ ಆನ್. Two deer lesson is the next lesson. Now in 2 days lesson I have broken it down into smaller sections. Okay, ಈ 2 day lesson ನಾನು small sections ಅಲ್ಲಿ break ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ. each section ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ್ದು important ಅಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ I will tell you in a very brief manner. First thing that you can focus on is the description of Monaco. ಈ section ಅಲ್ಲಿ they can ask you about where Monaco was located, or 3 marks again they can ask you to write the description of Monaco itself. Adana you have to keep in mind. Idರಲ್ಲಿ main things you should remember, children, the different points that are there. It lies between Italy and France, then it is near the Mediterranean Sea, and then what was the population of Monaco, that also is something that you should know, and jurymen, barristers. soldiers, ಇದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ಬರೀಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ ನೀವು. They can ask for 2, 3 or 4 marks. Similarly, gaming houses ಬಗ್ಗೆನೂ they can ask you a question. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ it is very important to note the 4 different sources of revenue that Monaco had, which is basically from tobacco, wine, spirits and poll tax. Okay, commodities anta kelidre, please remember to write only wine, spirits and tobacco. Poll tax is not a commodity. Special source of revenue came from the gambling houses. After this is where the murder happens in Monaco, right? Adadmele death penalty na first issue ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, but our death penalty, why they were not able to carry it forward? There were some reasons, right? First they will approach the kingdom of first they will approach France, but they will respond by saying that it costed around 16,000 francs along with the executioner. Details are very very important. Lesson alli details, the amount of money 16,000 francs agirli athwa 12,000 francs agirli, those things are very important. Then they might ask you who is the brother monarch. You should say it was the king of Italy, right? So all of these things are very important. These looks very small things, but idella ನೀವು text ಓದಿದ್ರೆ it will be very easy for you to remember. Adadmele they'll ask you what happened during the life imprisonment section and another ಬಗ್ಗೆ, right? So here is the section where they can technically test you on how was the life of the criminal, like what did they do in the prison, right? So all of these things are important for you to know, that there was a guard that was appointed, there was a special cell that was arranged for this criminal. The guard had to go and fetch the food for the criminal from the palace's kitchen. So details all comes over here. And it's also important to know why life imprisonment na avaru impose madakagirilla, because of the fact that it was high expense, more expenses were there, right? So that is something that you might have to note down over here. The next 2 things that you should keep in mind again for 3 marks and 4 marks is the reluctance of the prisoner to go out of the prison. Yake he was hesitating to go out of the prison. There are several points that you should remember, and that's something which is very important from the midterm exams point of view. And lastly, after he came out of the prison, how did he lead his life? He started market gardening. All of those points you should be able to remember. Overall, a 2-year lesson, you have to be very careful here, children, because there are so many details. That's the main things, and it is very important to use the textual words. If textual words use madilla andre, it is not enough, right? So in English, that is very important. You need to be able to give very clear textual words and evidences. So that is something that I want you to focus on with 2-year. But it is very simple, so please do not try to skip these lessons at all. The next lesson that we will talk about is the lesson which is everything I need to know I learned in the forest. Idu ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ daunting ಆಗಿ ಕಾಣಿಸ್ಬೋದು. This might look very scary for you, but I will try to break it down in an easy manner for you. So let's think about what is there in this lesson, right? So first you have about the Chipko movement. Idrali you should just remember that it was started by the peasant women, where it was started, all of those details. Then you have the Bachni Devi's episode. Idrali what happened between Bachni Devi and her husband, that is important. This has been asked several times, so it is something that you should definitely focus on in this lesson. Idu tumba easy bere. It's like a story. So I think if it is like a story, always remember to follow it, and it is very easy to remember as well. Then you have about the Navdanya farm and the Navdanya movement. This is again a very common 4-mark question. Illi you should remember all the key points that are there. This lesson only one thing that I want you to focus on is the fact that this lesson is not like other lessons. Idrali there is a lot of factual information, and there's a lot of facts. So facts na if you are able to memorize very well, then you should be able to recollect and write well. Okay, so for this lesson you need to be able to recollect the things. Yakandre illi especially Navdanya farm and Navdanya movement alli you should remember the numbers, which year it was started, how many what quantity of rice, wheat, all of that they were growing. So these require you to remember it very well. So I would say prepare like a simple way to remember these numbers, and that will be very helpful for you. Adadmele you have about eco-apartheid. Illi I have written in brackets to read about Bolivia and Ecuador. Yakandre they might ask you for 2 marks or 1 mark. MCQs allu kelbodu idana. What happened in Bolivia? Where was the rights for nature first started, right? So aa tara questions nu kelbodu avaru. In eco-apartheid section, what I want you to remember is about the South African environmentalist. What was he talking about? Those things I would request you to remember, and this is also very easy. If you know what was apartheid, then you can easily say that separatism shouldn't be there in today's world anta. So human beings and nature are both same. That is what they're saying, and that is what we are supposed to be moving towards. So adandana read it well. Then you have about two main people who give their opinion about science, their philosophies about science, Francis Bacon and Carolyn Merchant. It is ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ technical ಇದೆ, but I would request you to try and take a shot at it. Then they might ask you for 1 mark and 2 marks. Terra madre andre enu, terra nullius andre enu. Terra madre is mother earth, terra nullius is dead earth, right? So just remember those words. You should be able to write it by yourself. And lastly, last two key things that you should remember from this lesson is about Earth Democracy or Earth University. Illi you should remember about the web of life, the different courses that they teach in Earth University. So that is very key to remember. And lastly is the Tapovan section. In this section about Shantiniketan, who started Shantiniketan, where it was started, what is the whole idea of the poem, what is the whole idea of Tapovan itself, right? So those things I want you to keep in mind. So this is something that you, e-lesson, the main tip what I can give you is, please don't skip this lesson at all, because it is very simple. If you are able to recollect, if you are able to remember facts very well, this is a very easy lesson. Illi they cannot cut marks saying that you have not written this, you have not written that, or your grammar is wrong. As long as you are able to present the details in the best way possible, I think you should be able to score marks from this lesson. That's what I would request all my students to do, and I'm telling all of you to also do. So at this point, we have covered 3 lessons. Romeo Juliet agide, we have done 2 dear, everything I need to know. We have 5 more, and we have On Children, which is the poem. E-poem only, there are only 2 possible things that they could possibly ask you, right? One is about the parents' expectations. In the case, you should remember all the key things that Khalil Gibran talks about the parent and the child relationship. And the main thing over here is the imagery. Between the imagery of the bow, the archer and the arrow. Who is who? Who is the bow? Who is the archer? And who is the arrow? The arrow are the children, the archer is the prophet or the god, and bow is the other parents, right? So the role of all of these people is very important. This is a very simple poem, and I think you should be able to crack this without any sweat. This is the fun part, right? Sunny Morning. So Sunny Morning is a play, and play only there are so many things that you should remember. There's a lot of dialogues and all of that. But what I will try to do is in the next 2 minutes, I'll make it as easy as possible so that you can really look at this lesson in the best way possible. Okay, the first thing that you should remember in Sunny Morning is the humorous instances. There are both Don Gonzalo and Donna Laura park al band kootadmele in the summer afternoon. They start talking to each other. It starts from the dialogue where he calls her senile old lady and she calls him an ill-natured man. Illinda avribradu humorous conversation will begin. Handkerchief na use ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು shoes na clean ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೋ instance ಆಗಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಅಥವಾ he compares her glasses to a telescope, right? So all of these things are funny instances that are there, which I would request you to remember, and it's very simple. Just 4 or 5 instances are there. Names of the friends of Don Gonzalo. Don Gonzalo says that he is friends with a lot of poets, Zorilla, Becquer, Espronceda. So remember those names, it will be really helpful for you for your 2 markers. Then the names of the maid and servant. Donna Laura's maid's name was Petra. Similarly, Don Gonzalo's servant's name was Juanito. So ee hesrana neapka itkondre it will be very easy for you. Again, these are all 1 mark, 2 mark questions. There are so many nitty-gritties in this lesson, and they're basically small things ಇದಾವೆ. ಅವರು ರೋಸ್ ಪಾರ್ಕಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾರವಾಗ ವಾಟ್ ವಾಸ್ ದೇ ವರ್ ಟಾಸಿಂಗ್ ಬುಕೆ ಆಫ್ ಫ್ಲವರ್ಸ್. ದೆನ್ ಕೊನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ Petra comes with violet flowers in her hands. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ all 1 mark questions. Similarly, this is where the main thing starts. 3 points you will ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ವಾ ಇವಾಗ ನಿಮಗೆ? These 3 points are your 3 mark and your 4 mark questions. The story of Silver Maiden and Gallant Horseman. ಹೆಂಗೆ ಅವ್ರದ್ದು ಲವ್ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಯ್ತು ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ they might ask you. Similarly, Don Gonzalo's fictitious stories. ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಅವ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ಫೇಕ್ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಗ್ಯಾಲೆಂಟ್ ಹಾರ್ಸ್ಮನ್ನ ಸಾಯಿಸ್ಬಿಡ್ತಾನೆ ಆ ಅವ್ನ ಸ್ಟೋರಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಆ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಯಾವ ಜಾಗಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ ಅನ್ನೋದು ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ದ ಸೀಕ್ವೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಎಲ್ಲಿಗೆ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ, ಅಲ್ಲಿಂದ ಆಫ್ರಿಕಾಗೆ ಯಾವಾಗ ಹೋಗ್ತಾನೆ, ಅವ್ನು ಹೇಗೆ ಸಾಯ್ತಾನೆ. ಸೊ ಆಲ್ ಆಫ್ ದೋಸ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್. ದ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಇಸ್ ಯುವರ್ ಡೊನಾ ಲಾರಾಸ್ ಫಿಕ್ಟಿಷಿಯಸ್ ಸ್ಟೋರಿ. ಈ ಸೆಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ವೆರಿ ಇಂಟ್ರೆಸ್ಟಿಂಗ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ಶುಡ್ ರಿಮೆಂಬರ್ ಇಸ್ ದಟ್ ಅವಳಲ್ಲಿ ಬೀಚ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೋಗಿ ಕೂತಾಗ ಹೆಸರು ಬರಿತಾಳೆ ಸ್ಯಾಂಡ್ ಮೇಲೆ, then the waves will come up and slowly will wash her away, right? So that incident is what you should be quoting over here. In real life ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರಿಬ್ಬರಿಗೆ ಏನಾಯ್ತು, when did she marry, what did Don Gonzalo do, he ran away to Paris with a ballet dancer. So ಈ instances na you should be able to recollect. And last ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅವ್ರ ಇಬ್ರು ಕ್ಯಾರೆಕ್ಟರ್ ನ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಆಗೋಗ್ಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. You will notice that Don Gonzalo and Don Aurora will become different characters altogether. So this section is also something that will help you synthesize this lesson really well. So this is, if you have watched any love movie or a romantic movie, and if you are able to remember the instances of that particular movie, this lesson should be easy for you. As long as you are able to remember the play in a very humorous manner, in a very fictitious manner, then I think you should be able to remember the details very well. So this is a very, very, very fun lesson to learn. And I would really request all of you to attempt all the questions that you get from Sunny Morning, because it's very, very simple. You might be thinking that this sir is saying that everything is simple. Trust me, English is very simple. The thing is that we think that it is not really simple, but my humble request is give it the importance that it deserves. Next lesson is gardener. Again, this is also, for me, it is a very simple lesson. And I've tried to break it down for all of you. You have the description of the gardener. In the beginning, he comes from Chennaraya, Patna, with that native intelligence in his eyes. So all of those things is something that you can remember for 2 marks. Then the impact of gardener. This is very, very important. Always they've asked for 3 marks or 4 marks. Gardener ಬಂದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಆ ಓನರ್ ಲೈಫ್ನ ಹೇಗೆ ಚೇಂಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ದ ಅವನು, what were the good things and what were the bad things. That is something that you should remember. The next thing that you should remember is about the rivalry, that is the physical rivalry and the abstract rivalry. Illi remember what was the key information that is mentioned in the text about both the characters. Who had how much percentage, how much land, how many acres of land, how many acres of land was forcibly taken over by Basavaya. Adrinda Tamanna became extremely angry. So then he reached out to his friends. ಅವ್ರು ಏನು ಅಡ್ವೈಸ್ ಕೊಟ್ಟರು, ಆ ಅಡ್ವೈಸಿಂದ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಸ್ಯಾಟಿಸ್ಫೈ ಆಗಿಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ದೆನ್ ಹಿ ವಾಂಟೆಡ್ ಟು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಾಯ್ ಬಸವಯ್ಯ. ಅದಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಹಿ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟೆಡ್ ಟು ರೈಟ್ ಹಿಸ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆಡ್ಸ್. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ದ ರೈವಲ್ರಿ, ರೈಟ್? ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಡೀಟೇಲ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ ಯು ಅಲಾಟ್. ದೆನ್ ತಮ್ಮನ್ನ ಹೆಂಗೆ ಬಸವಯ್ಯನ ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ಲಿ ಡಿಸ್ಟ್ರಾಯ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆನೂ ದೇ ಮೈಟ್ ಆಸ್ಕ್ ಯು ಅನದರ್ ಕ್ವೆಶ್ಚನ್. ಅದರಿಂದ ಬಸವಯ್ಯಸ್ ರೆಸ್ಪಾನ್ಸ್ ಹೆಂಗಿತ್ತು? So he bedecked himself with gold, built one palatial mansion. All of those things is something that you can remember. Finally, they mentioned a little bit about Russia and USA, and the whole fact that if one person is not the rival of another person, then what will happen to the other person. Another bugge they have mentioned a little bit. So that will be good for you to focus on. And lastly, Lokya ಮತ್ತೆ Lokya child ಗೆ fever ಬಂದಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ Lokya the gardener wanted to visit Lokya, right? So our section they might ask you for 2 marks. So this is about gardener. When you are old, and one small poem I missed out, so I have put that over here. This is very simple again. Now in this poem, what I want you to think about is the main idea of this poem. This poem, the main point is that beauty is transient. That means it keeps changing, but the love that you have for the person who you love will always remain permanent. ಅದನ್ನ ಪ್ರೂವ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ the poet has written 3 different stanzas. ಆ 3 stanzas main points ನಿಮಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿದ್ರೆ ಸಾಕು. The main essence of this poem is about the fact that other people loved her for her glad grace and physical beauty, whereas the poet loved her for her pilgrim soul, that is her inner beauty and the changing sorrows of face. ಏನೇ ಕಷ್ಟ ಬಂದ್ರೂ the poet always loved her ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. That's the main thing that I want you to remember. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ for 2 marks, remember to have the grey hair. Where is what does he want his beloved to do? All of these things you can remember for 2 marks. Okay, so the last poem that we have is To the Foot from its Child by Pablo Neruda. So idralli the main thing is how the innocence of the child becomes tough. The child learns that life is very difficult, right? So that concept is something that is being taught in this poem. So idralli 2 main things that you can think about is the journey of the foot, how the journey of the foot is from market, ministries, it travels a lot, right? So our concept, that section is important, and also the hardships that it faces in life. It has to walk on glass pieces, stones, and all of those things, right? So all of these things are the most important thing that you should remember from this poem. So So that's it about prose and poetry. This covers your 40 marks. Ideally, you should remember that you will have your MCQs, you have your 2 markers, you have your 3 markers and 4 markers. There will be ample amount of options. But my only request is that I would love it if you attempt questions from almost everything so that you will be having the maximum capacities to score. I will quickly take 2-3 minutes to explain a little bit about grammar so that we can end this video. Now in grammar there's so many things, right? But it's all very simple. Expressions under they will ask you to fill in the blanks. They'll give you sentences and they'll give you 2 blanks with 3 options and you will have to fill the right expression in that particular blank. Like for example, to give up, or simple examples. See, 2 dear sumar examples are there. So think about expressions. Ideally the trick is that fill in the blanks ಮಾಡ್ತಾರಾಗ ನೀವು apply ಮಾಡ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಒಂದ್ಸತಿ ಓದಿ, and once you see that it logically makes sense, then you can go ahead with your answer. Similarly, active passive voice alone, the main thing that I wanted to remember is ಯಾವಾಗ was use ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಯಾವಾಗ is use ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಯಾವಾಗ were use ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಯಾವಾಗ are use ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. When you're changing the tenses, right? So that's very important to keep in mind. Comprehension passage, you will have both poetry and prose comprehension, so you can take a decision in terms of which one you would want to answer. Reported speech is quite interesting. They'll give you dialogues and you'll have to write that in reported speech. This might come for 5 marks and it's again quite an important thing for all of you to keep in mind. Then you have letter writing and resume writing. So here they'll ask you to apply for a particular job. Letter of application bardi adamel resume baribekagutte. In your letter of application, if you're covering all the details, then you need not write the resume, but I would urge all of you to follow the pattern that is there in the workbook. So write your letter of application and write the resume as per the format. I think that should easily land you 5 marks. Then you have your pronouns. This will be coming in the form of match the following, or one passage ಕೊಟ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಅಲ್ಲಿ pronouns ನ ಅಂಡರ್ಲೈನ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, like he, she, they. ಆ pronouns ನ ನೀವು ಮ್ಯಾಚ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ with the respective nouns that it refers to. So these are the main grammar things. ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ you might have 1 mark questions like jumbled segments, rearrange ಮಾಡೋದು to make the right sentences. Question tags irbodu, they'll give you a sentence and they'll ask you to put an apply the right question tag for it. Then you will have to do the subject verb agreement and prepositions and articles related questions as well. So mostly this is it from my end. I think we have covered a lot of it. My only main suggestion for all of you is that, like I said in the beginning of the video, this is a subject where you can easily score a lot of marks as long as you are able to prepare in the best way possible, right? So ನನ್ನ ಹೋಪ್ ಇದಿದೆ ಈ ವಿಡಿಯೋ ಇಂದ ಏನಂದ್ರೆ that you will be able to figure out what is important, what is really worth focusing on, and how to prepare for your exam ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ. So I'm really hoping that you will do your level best and you will be able to do well in English. So thank you so much for watching this video so far, and if you have any questions about how to approach the ways you write your long answers or grammar or anything as such, feel free to leave your questions in the comment and I will definitely get back to you when I can get back to you. Thank you so much, all of you.